we need to talk about imposter syndrome. It's got a bit of a bad rap, which isn't necessarily warranted. You know, it's been associated with this feeling of not being good enough, of the fear of being found out, and deep down we think we're a bit of a fraud. But you know, in this video I'd just like to take a look at those ideas, and suggest that there is perhaps another way of looking at things. Business owners tend to think imposter syndrome comes with the territory. You know, they look at the big successful people in their industry and think, oh, I could never be like that. Or they go to networking meetings and there's always the people that look more successful, happier, more accomplished, everything than them. And they just think it's not for them. So what I'm going to talk to you about now is my experience. I'm not any mental health professional. It's just my day-to-day experience as a copywriter and storyteller, navigating through a lifetime of not feeling good enough and then kind of getting over it. We define imposter syndrome as doubting our abilities and feeling like a fraud. Everyone is more successful, but why? You know, for years I've been the poster child for imposter syndrome. Really, you know, when I was in my early 20s, I dreamed of being a history professor. It didn't happen for lots of reasons. The main reason was I didn't think I was capable. Deep down, I didn't think I was capable, but I had these big dreams. I'd look at authors of authoritative works and think, I'll never be that good. I could never do that. I always wanted to write a book. Even when I was 21, 22, it took me till the age of 62 to actually write it. I spent years worried about what other people would think of me, and of course I assumed it was all negative. Everyone else seemed to have figured everything out, and I was just stumbling around like, you know, lost in space. I tried everything to fix it: therapy, courses, every quick fix you can imagine, and nothing actually worked. Every time I tried to stand out and it didn't work, but I stopped. I didn't persevere. You know, it's the classic self-fulfilling prophecy. I played it safe. I continued doing the boring work. For years I was a translator of the attire manufacturing process. I mean, 40,000 words, believe you me, you don't want to do that. It just bored me stupid, but it paid the bills and it was safe. There was one particular example. I was at a networking event for people I knew from right across the country. This is in the days before Zoom calls and everything. We knew them by name and reputation, and we got together from time to time, 3 or 4 times a year. And I remember sitting in this conversation. I don't know, there was 5 or 6 of us standing around in a group, and I was feeling like the outsider. I was feeling the classic imposter syndrome stuff. You know, these people are all more important than me, they're more successful than me, they're happier than me, basically. And I was talking to a friend of mine a couple of years after that, who remembers the exact conversation and who had exactly the same feeling. She was feeling I'm not part of this crowd. I was one of the cool kids, apparently. News to me. Because we are animals of comparison. We're comparison ninjas. We are always comparing ourselves, benchmarking ourselves with other things, generally negatively. But the truth is that everybody gets imposter syndrome at some stage or other. And I don't really believe China Weave, because we all think that someone else has been doing better. So you know what I did? I reframed it. I thought, well, why should everybody be better than me if everybody has it? You know, when I joined the aforementioned Copy Hackers copywriting group, there was a bunch of copywriters that, again, I imagined were more successful than me. I imagined were more accomplished than me. But when I got talking to them in the Slack groups and face to face sometimes, you realise that they were just struggling just as much as I was. They had the same doubts as I did. They had the same contradictions as I did. And that was a light bulb moment. Because, how can I say this? When you acknowledge something like that, when you acknowledge any kind of symptom like that, it doesn't like being called out. And somehow, all of a sudden, it goes poof, and it kind of goes away. It never goes away completely, and it probably never should, because it keeps you on your toes. But it helps you put it in context, and give it the importance that it should have. So what did I do to fix it? Well, there's no single magic bullet, because, you know, it's a combination of things that slowly build your confidence back up. I was called out by a coach, actually, about how I spoke about myself. Trash talking yourself is one of the most toxic things you can do. The whole thing about, oh, I'm no good at this, or I can't do that. Stop. Because you can learn to do anything. You know, oh, I'm an idiot, I used to say. Don't be such an idiot. Or the drowning in the shoulds, the woulds and the coulds. That is the language of people who doubt themselves all the time. And really, just noticing that self-talk does most of the work, because you'll find over time that you stop doing it. In 2018, I read Ryan Halliday's The Daily Stoic, which is a year's worth of reflections on the Stoic principles of Marcus Aurelius. It's actually broken down into days, and he gives the dates. And funnily enough, I did actually start reading it on the 1st of January. And it's only little, it takes you 5 minutes to read each one. And I did it religiously every day. And if you don't know, the principles of Stoicism is, the main principle is that you can only control what you can control. You can't control external factors. You can't control the weather. You can't control you can't control other people's reactions. You can only control yours. And slowly but surely, that had a massive effect on me. I stopped comparing myself to other people's achievements. I started focusing on my actions, on the things that I could do, the things that I could control. Another thing I do to this day, well, I started writing down 3 things that I was grateful for every day. And it got to the stage where I didn't need to write them down, because I've always been a bit of a glass half full rather than a glass half empty type of person. But writing them down, the stupid little things like, oh, the sun's out today, or, you know, I had a nice cup of coffee this morning, or something like, not the big stuff, you know. And I will say every so often, you know, I'm grateful for my wife, I'm grateful for whatever. But you can't say that every day. You've got to, the beauty of the exercise is you've got to go out and find things that you are grateful for. I started doing it again this year, and there's something in the mindset shift. I can't quite put my finger on it. But being grateful for things stops you being bitter and angry. There's too many bitter and angry people around. The thing is, imposter syndrome will always be there. The trick is to acknowledge it and say, okay, you can be fine here, but you sit in the corner and you shut up. Because the thing that really changed my worldview was that, in fact, imposter syndrome is your friend. It's a sign that you are growing. It's a sign you're doing things that you're uncomfortable with. Me going into a group of copywriters I thought were better than me. Now I found out they weren't. So I grew. I work with and associate myself with people to whom I can aspire to be. And that used to terrify me in the past. I used to run away from opportunities like that. But coming back to the principle of control what you can control, then you realise all the things you've got inside you. If you stop comparing yourself to other people and concentrate on the things you've got inside you, that's a far more powerful way of working around the world. You know, there's a book, I read a book a number of years ago by a guy called, an ex-Navy SEAL called Brandon Webb. I can't remember the title of it now, but it's about fear. And they're obviously, they're Navy SEALs, they're trained within an inch of their lives, because in combat situations, they can't be in situations of doubt. They've got to trust themselves and everybody around them. So they don't talk about comfort zones, because going out of your comfort zone, that implies fear. And fear is not a good thing. So they talk about expanding your zone of competence, which I think is a far better way of framing it, because you know your comfort zone is a wonderful place. You know, it's full of fluffy clouds and golden incense and myrrh and stuff like that. But it's also a wonderful place where nothing ever happens. So I'm Mike. I'm documenting what it's like to really run a business. A solo business. I happen to be in my 60s, but it's not just for people in their 60s. I've got my own particular experience of these things. I'd love you to come on this journey with me. So do all the LinkedIn stuff, YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, have a comment as well. Let's have a discussion about this. And if you are just starting on your journey, you're trying to work out what your story actually is, in the description, I've got a free PDF download. It's a workbook, 39 pages, how to uncover your story. Go and sign up, and I'll see you in the next video.